So Ravens flock. Lamar Jackson is coming off of a historic season in the 2024 season, and with him getting off to an extremely hot start in the 2025 season where he was leading the league in touchdowns, many of us thought that we were going to see a similar offense to what we saw last year, but things started to collapse very quickly with this entire offense, mainly just due to the fact that this offensive line continues to get even worse than they already were. As we all know, Lamar Jackson has taken more hits than he's ever taken. He's on pace to take the most sacks he's ever taken, and this has caused him to miss over a month of playing time after he got hurt during the Chiefs game. During that time period, we all saw that the team literally went from a playoff team to a literal poverty franchise that can't win games without him. But that being said, though, we were still able to weather the storm. Lamar was able to come back. We were able to rattle off a few wins. However, even with Lamar coming back and putting us in position to win, uh, I remember putting out a video a few weeks ago after the Jets game where I questioned if we should be on fraud alert because the team as a whole just looked very underwhelming against a terrible Jets team, which to me I found very concerning. And one of the things that was concerning is that Lamar Jackson clearly looked noticeably off. He wasn't running as much as he may have run he may have ran in the past, which I'm not against, honestly. I'm cool with that because it's inevitable that as he gets older, he's not going to want to run as much as he did years ago. Like that's fine with me. But at the same time, even when he's in the pocket, he doesn't look comfortable, which makes sense because the guys in front of him can't block anybody. And now it's getting to the point where, as we saw on Thanksgiving night, in front of the whole world, we had the Thanksgiving night game. The offense as a whole collapsed, and Lamar was a big part of that collapse, as we saw where he had the 2 fumbles and the interception. Now, the interception, I don't really put that on him because, again, Isaiah likely got blown up within half a second, which allowed the D lineman to tip the ball in the air and then it got picked. Otherwise, it would have been a wide open touchdown. But that being said, Lamar, despite playing well enough to keep us in the game, he has still looked off. Even though many things that happened weren't his fault, there were still things that happened that were on him. There were missed throws in the game that you don't want to see. There were fumbles that shouldn't have happened, especially when Lamar's in his 8th season. You don't want to see these type of fumbles still happening because unfortunately, when Lamar fumbles, it is at the worst possible time. But with this bad stretch of games, because this is really the first bad stretch of games Lamar Jackson has had in almost 3 years. And with that happening, as you might have guessed, unfortunately, a lot of ignorant people who still have a hatred for Lamar and still want to convince themselves that they were right, or convince themselves that Lamar's not a good quarterback, or all these other narratives that they try to push that have already been debunked many times. They've all come out of the woodwork. We saw a few weeks ago, I think it was Bleacher Report or one of these places put out an article where they said Lamar's overrated. And like we all know, most fans are also they're all parrots. They just repeat whatever the media says. And so now many football fans or football watchers, observers, they started to also run with that idea and say Lamar is overrated. One person went as far as to post a tweet saying that, and shockingly, Lamar Jackson actually put up a response where he basically had the laughing emoji and he said, "Say less." And basically, I'm hoping that this could be like a moment where, I don't know if you guys watched the Michael Jordan documentary, but in the Michael Jordan documentary, well, it's technically not the Michael Jordan documentary. It's the documentary called The Last Dance, which is really just about the Chicago Bulls as a whole, like that last hurrah that the Chicago Bulls had in the late 90s when they won that last championship. But still, I mean, in the end, it was really just Michael Jordan documentary. But in that documentary, you would hear Michael Jordan talk about how he used to try to create scenarios in his head of people who said something bad about him or talk trash about him, and he would blow it out of proportion in his head on purpose to give him some extra motivation to go harder in these games, to have that competitive edge and that chip on the shoulder. And I'm hoping that Lamar responding to that tweet is gonna be that same type of situation where he just simply just tries to spin it in his head as something more serious with it than what it is, just specifically for the purpose of trying to use it as fuel to just take it to another level. Because I mean, otherwise, it's not really that deep, but because it's just a tweet. However, it can possibly be maybe the motivation Lamar needs to get back on track and get back to how he was playing in the first 4 games of the season, and maybe even take it a step beyond that, because even though in the first 4 games of the season he was playing fairly well, he was playing well enough to lead the league in touchdowns. One of the biggest issues we still had was we still were not having we weren't sustaining drives, and that in itself, I believe, would be something that I think would easily allow Lamar to get back into a rhythm. Is if we seen him get off to a decent start in the Pittsburgh game where he's just mostly throwing check down passes to Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell, like short stuff underneath stuff, just to get him back in that groove. But we will see. We have 5 games to figure this out. So hopefully Lamar can get back on track. But let me know, do you believe that Lamar Jackson will get back on track? And do you think that his struggles are mental or physical? Because we all know Lamar, even though he's starting to look healthier in this after this Bengals game, he's still, in my opinion, not fully healthy. But he may be headed back to being as healthy as he can be. But at the same time, I also think it's a mental thing as well at this point. I do think it's a mental thing, mainly because it is extremely hard to trust his offensive line to actually hold up for longer than 1.5 seconds. But let me know, do you think that Lamar is dealing with a mental block or physical issues from the injuries? And do you think he'll at any point in the next 5 games in the last stretch of the season, do you think he will regain trust in this offensive line and in his pass catchers?